Here we go, people. 3, 2, 1. You've found AHO Radio. We're authentic human outliers coming together to help heal the fear of being authentic, to bring back genuine human conversation. No hype, no sensationalism, just honest talk about the critical issues affecting society, affecting humankind. And now, here are the hosts of AHO Radio, Millennial Adam T. Cummings with Boomers John Krotek and Bill Paratzman. And hey, good morning, everybody, or afternoon if that's your time zone. It's great to be here today. It's the Friday, at least in California, where we now have to wear face masks if we go outside for essential services. And that's sort of changing the world. It's changed the world for all of us. The pandemic is something new, right? We've never done this before. So here we are, Authentic Human Outliers. I'm here with John Krotek. Adam is managing in the background this morning. Thank you, Adam, for all you do. We love you, brother. And we're here, as the intro said, to create a place for authentic human outliers to come together and sort of find camaraderie and, in a sense, to heal from what it means to be sort of on the fringe of society. All of us here have been that or are that. And in many ways, this is a world of introverts right now. We're all isolated. We're all at home. So we want to encourage that. And we have guests that are also doing the outlier thing in authentic ways and bringing what they bring to the world in innovative ways that may, in fact, be the way forward right now, the way our world will look after, post-pandemic, post-COVID. So we're here today with Avishai. I was privileged to be a guest on her podcast a while back. And I was really intrigued by our offline conversation and what it is that Avi does and who she is. So John and I are here today to basically facilitate going a little deeper with Avi and finding out what it is, what's the woman that's behind the mask that we all like to put up in our social media, what's going on inside, and how does that appear in the world? So, hey, Avi, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
You bet. Glad you're here.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we're right in the middle of the global reset. It feels like we've all been punched in the gut, but we get back up. That's one thing humans do is we get back up. And you're so right, Bill. And it's just, we're just blessed to have Avi here today. And I want to hear more about her and her life and, what she's giving back to this planet. Because, I read somewhere where she helps mothers get their stressful lives back in line through the nutrition aspect of living. So yeah, I mean, I'm happy to be here and blessed. So thank you.
So here's the big $24 question, or maybe it's a $64 question or $64,000 question. So who is Avi? I mean, when you peel back all the layers, what is the essential person that's inside Avishai?
Avi, who's me, Avishai. I just like a peaceful, harmonious, balanced life. As I spoke to you, Bill, and you've been keeping up with my podcast, I never really had that luxury of having a peaceable life. I had an excellent mom and some excellent relatives, that really cultivated that for me. But I was exposed to a lot of trauma, and it allowed me to, I always wanted to feel what peace felt like. So I chased that, and that really brought me down a pathway to a holistic journey.
So what when you were able to find peace, what did it feel like, and how did that connect to who you are?
Oh, wow. It felt like a home internally. Like I didn't need to be in the best place. I just needed to be at one with myself. And it felt amazing.
That's awesome. Holistic is not a new word, right? So tell us what holistic means.
So holistic is an overall lifestyle. It's basically your overall life. It's beyond the nutrition. It's beyond the meal plans. It's beyond, your relationships with family. It's how you live. It's the mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual aspects of your life. And it's really finding that balance between those four aspects so you can live the life that you absolutely love. It's like your dream life.
So a holistic lifestyle, from what I'm thinking now, is going to be different for all of us.
Absolutely. It's how you want your life to look.
Is there a way that you're able to do that, Avi, so that you say, oh, here I am today, and out there somewhere in the future, days, weeks, an hour away is my holistic life? How do you connect yourself from where you are to that when it becomes disconnected? Because a lot of our listeners are living in this place where we're so disconnected, by the present trauma that we don't feel that path. What's that path for you?
That path for me, whenever something traumatic occurs and I'm looking at it, I try to look for the solution to the problem versus the problem. I can see that, everyone is in a state of panic. And I've also been in a state of panic many times in my life. And I really had to start to visualize, and I journal a lot. I actually have journals up on Amazon. I journal a lot and create, a visual for myself. What goals do I want to set for myself? How do I want my life to look like right now? And I come up with a plan for myself on the daily, and I implement that plan accordingly.
Nice.
So even every 24 hours, you can reconnect with this, right?
Absolutely.
So before you had all the pieces and parts in place, tell us a story about when this began to dawn on you, like from trauma to trust. How did that feel? What happened? How did that feel? Lead us through the process the first time you started to get it. You know what I mean?
Right. I would say the first time I started to get it, I had to be, I want to say 23. And it's when I was student teaching in school, in college, and I was experiencing all of this stress. And prior to that, I really, had a bout with depression, and I had just switched over my nutrition. So I was still feeling the depression feelings, the anxiety feelings, the anxious feelings. And I really thought to myself, I said, does anybody else feel this way? Like I really wish I had someone that I could speak to. And I did. But at the end of the day, it's you and your mind alone. So I started to really start to visualize. I started to manifest how I wanted to feel and what that would look like for me. So I would say I made that switch when I was 23. And I really decided that I don't want to feel stressed. I don't want to work these corporate jobs. I don't want to be under anybody. I really want to have my own, and I want to govern myself essentially.
That's awesome. We talk about common ground as human beings, and one thing that we're talking about is trauma. And I read somewhere where 75% of the world has experienced one trauma in their life. It doesn't have to be disfigurement or anything like combat. It could be divorce or financial ruin. And then I've read where up to 40% have been affected by multiple traumas. It would seem like right now, in the middle of this pandemic, I'd say just about everybody is experiencing a trauma right now. And you at 23 to discover that you didn't want any of that in your life is remarkable, because most people, which includes me, doesn't figure it out till much later in life. So, kudos to you. What was the first thing you did though, when you finally decided, I don't want this stress? What did you do? How did you figure out a way to do it?
I'm trying to think back to how I want. I started to declare to the universe what I didn't want and what I actually did want. And that, I'm glad you asked that question. It actually started when I got out of student teaching. I got my first job at school. And it was so many politics. The administration was horrendous. I worked long hours. I had to create the curriculum. I had to get instruments for my students. It was like a poor area and no one was helping me. And I just became completely drained and tired. And at the time, I went to church, and my mom was actually a minister, and she was talking about, how things were changing in the world. And I don't go to church anymore. Actually, both of us, we don't, because the church is within us now. But she was talking about everything that was happening in the world, and it led to my off the grid life. And I really started to say, I have the power, I have the power to change my life. And so I started to really declare to the universe what I didn't want. And I actually got my wish. So I saw how the power of manifestation worked.
Awesome.
So this is so interesting to me because I'm a law of attraction sort of nut. I follow it.
No, not you, Bill.
No, not me, right? And one of the things that I think it's Esther Hicks cautions on this, or Abraham, is showing up with what you don't want, like making your attractive mantras about what you don't want isn't the right practice. You need to make about what you do want. So at what point, Avi, for you, did it shift from declaring what you don't want, which is powerful, to knowing what you do want? How did that happen?
That's a tough question.
That's why we're here.
No, but you know what though? But I think some of it has to do with the church inside, what you just said. I love that. So go ahead.
Exactly. I started to place the church inside of myself, and I really started to take my own power back. Because, if any of you go to church, that's completely fine, but I realized, listen, this is my life. I'm an adult. I can't depend on people for my peace and happiness. So I really had to take that materialistic piece of church and put it within myself and really align myself with what I wanted. So once I got off the job, and it led me down a pathway. Once I was able to kind of reset, I had to reset. I was like, okay, I'm not working anymore. I'm at home. I started to write down what I wanted to do. So I made the switch when I just clearly decided what I wanted to do. So I became a blogger, and I started to focus in on, creating my daily life for myself, like what I wanted to do on the daily. So that's kind of when I made that switch to what I wanted versus what I didn't want.
I know you've told the story hundreds of times for your audience. Would you tell it for ours too, about how you, quote, got off the job and found your power? It's a great story.
Absolutely. So this is kind of, I did tell this story, but in detail, I didn't fully. So what happened at the school, I really loved the children. And what happened, I actually got injured at the school. And you want me to tell the full story?
Oh yeah, go for it.
Okay.
Love it.
Gotta have the full story. Come on. Don't hold back. Let's go.
So I got injured at the school. A student actually pushed my arm, and, her name was Serenity, and I took it as a sign. Oops. Sorry, I wasn't supposed to say that. Well, I don't know. No one knows the school. But that was her name. And it was actually a sign that I learned later on. And so I got injured at the school. I had to go to a doctor who was the workers' comp doctor. And I was supposed to be out for 2 weeks. It ended up turning into 2 months. So the school got aggravated that I was gone. They had subs. I left lesson plans. I left sub plans. I did everything that I was supposed to do. But because the doctor was working with the school, I was supposed to come back on light duty. And when I got back to the school, they put me on full duty. So I'm really injured. The way she had pushed my arm was like up and outward. So I had some nerve damage. I had a lot of things wrong. I had numbness. It was just horrible. I was in physical therapy for a year. So when I got back to school, they put me on lunch duty. My arm is in a sling. Put me on lunch duty, and tell the vice principal, I said, I need to sit down because I'm losing oxygen. So behind my back, this is how shiesty people are. Behind my back, he goes and tells, the people above him, like superintendent, people like that I said it was noisy in the cafeteria. They needed one little piece to fire me because they knew I couldn't teach anymore. I couldn't teach violin. So they wanted me off the job. So they came up with a lie.
I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. So once I left, I won the workers' comp case because they were wrong for what they did. So I won that. I got off the job. It led me down a pathway. I remember meeting with this holistic nurse, and I was telling people, I just got fired from my job because they weren't supposed to fire me. I was injured. I just got fired from my job, and everyone was telling me, they were like, oh, good. That's great. And I'm looking at people like they were crazy because I came from a corporate background.
Right.
So I met with this holistic nurse, and she said, this is the beginning of a new journey for you. And after she said that, once I changed over, I started to focus in on my nutrition. I felt very euphoric. It was like a feeling I never felt before. The God or the creator I knew before really seemed more powerful to me. My spiritual gifts started to open up more. I was like, what is going on? So it just led me down a peaceful path. And that's why I said the girl's name, which I didn't mean to say, but there's no accidents. It was a sign. I found serenity.
No,
Yes.
that's awesome. Well, we talk about signs, and I know, and Bill's mentioned the law of attraction, and those things definitely are around every day, all day, all night too. But we use help like the nurse. But are there any books that have helped you along this path of serenity? Are there any books that you could think of, Avi?
Yes, I would say Dr. Furman's Eat to Live book that helped me. What other books? Essential oil books that I read. Those are the
Nice.
books I like to read. I'm a very medical research book type of person. Um, that's definitely what I would say. I'm trying to think of any other ones.
If you think of them, let me know and I'll just put them in the show notes.
Oh, I know GoPro. I think it was GoPro by Eric Worre.
And what's that book about? What was that about?
That's about, going pro as a professional network marketing business. That's when I
Nice.
got into network marketing. So I had read that book.
So you start this holistic healing journey to serenity, and everything just starts to change like immediately, right? Is that what you're telling us?
Absolutely, yes.
And
How did that? Sorry,
yeah.
John, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I mean, I'm fascinated because I love the way that she describes it. The church within, and the church within is saying the sacredness that we have in each and every one of us. You started to tap into that.
Absolutely, yes.
How did that feel? I mean, it's hard to if you haven't had the experience yet, and you want the spiritual experience, you want the confidence that comes from that. How does it feel when you're on that track, and especially like for the first time? How do you recognize it when it happens again?
When you're on that track, you feel fully supported. And it's not that you feel fully supported by, people that you can see in the physical, but you feel fully supported by everything around you. We hear scriptures about, the creator being omniscient, omnipresent, omnipotent. And I really took that scripture. And that's why I said nutrition helped with my spiritual awakening and helped me understand more of what I was reading. I took that and I realized that everything around me is the very essence of the source that comes from within and without. So you just feel like empowered. You feel like you're empowered, like you have power, and that you know the solution to your problems, no matter what. Yeah, go ahead.
You just said something really interesting, and I want to catch it to make sure I heard it right.
Sure.
The thing you feel inside is it's like there are signs around you that show you that you're on the right track. The stuff
Absolutely.
around you that feel is like self-empowered is echoed or maybe encouraged by, in your case, like by nutrition. Nutrition opened that for you, and as you began to follow that road, what I think I'm hearing you saying is that is how you felt the power come alive in like a practical way you can put your hands on, right?
Absolutely, yes.
Oh, that is so cool. So
Well,
what happened next? I mean, so nutrition has become part of who you are, what you do, but what happened, like inside, what's happening next? How are you living this?
Inside, what's happening next is I really consult with my spirit. And I started not listening to what maybe a corporate mindset, there's like a standard that everyone goes by, maybe everybody gets up at 7 and then you eat breakfast and then you eat lunch and then you eat dinner. There's certain set times for specific things, and people are telling you when you should do this, when you should do that. I stopped listening to people and I started listening to my spirit, because your body will always be aligned with your spirit. And I started giving my body what it innately needed. It wasn't on someone else's schedule. When I was working, I was on a schedule, someone else's schedule. That's not when I wanted to get up. That's not when I wanted to teach. That's not when I wanted to do anything. So in order to cultivate peace, I really had to start to do what I innately wanted to do. You know, if I wanted to wake up early and just pray and meditate, that's what I did. If I didn't want to wake up early and pray and meditate, I maybe wanted to, I don't know, read a book. That's what I decided to do because I needed it at that time.
No, I love that because, we're talking about empowerment and personal power and
Right.
going within. And, we're at a time right now where a lot of people, and I mean millions right now, are feeling definitely not in control. They feel disempowered. And you're so right about the corporate lifestyle. I was in that world for a while myself, and you felt definitely controlled. And you have to have a certain amount of that in a mission. But, Avi, what can people do right now, this very minute, our listeners, if they're feeling disempowered and they have no control? What can they do?
Absolutely. They really need to get to the root of it. Getting to the root of everything is going to have a profound effect on the health success of, or your health destiny, the success of your life, your goals you want to reach. So I would say definitely getting to the root of what they're feeling. I hear a lot of people saying, "Oh, I feel isolated, I feel anxious, I feel depressed, I feel stressed." Those are words. Those are words. Those are the effect, but we need to really get to the cause. There's a reason you're feeling that way. And I find that just doing a brain dump of everything that you're feeling will get you to that root cause.
You're big on journaling, and I get that too, because when I brain dump, I go to the piano, which is weird, but it's like
Right.
playing out your most recent stuff in music or writing out your most recent stuff in a journal. Connect the dots for us. Like, I've always wondered why that's so effective. What's your insight on why journaling is so effective for you?
It's so effective because when everything's in your head, you really don't know. Everything's just coming in your brain all at once. Like, I don't know. It could be anything. And you have all these things in your brain. And I find that when you have all this stuff in your brain, it becomes cluttered, you get headaches. And to avoid getting that headache, it's better to just dump it out. It doesn't need to be organized, it just needs to be out of your head. And for me, when I used to keep stuff in my head, and I know other people are going through this too, I saw a stuckness in my life. Like, I was like, oh my God, after I wrote stuff down, I said, I could have surpassed this if only I knew where I was stuck. If only I knew why I felt anxious or stressed or depressed.
And journaling helps you to identify that in some way.
Absolutely.
Is it
Absolutely.
is it intellectual, like, oh, now I understand it, put all the pieces, or is it more on a heart level where you're going, oh, wow, now I get why I'm been feeling like this?
It's definitely more on a heart level. And some people, they'll write it down and they won't fully get to the root, but they'll feel a sense of relief. And that's where I come in. That's why I help people get to the root so they can really excel.
Get to the
Well,
root. I love that.
Yeah.
one thing too, that you've highlighted here is intuition. And, amazingly in today's day and age, well, it's not amazing, it's reality. People have lost touch, and we're talking about authenticity. I think it's the fear of being yourself, but also tapping into your intuition. And by journaling, and you just said that, Avi and Bill, it brings to light the heart and the root of the matter. So talk to us about intuition, how that opened you up.
Intuition. Well, I always had it. I've been what I would say a special child. I just thought I was functioning as I was functioning. And I realized that the other children around me weren't feeling the same things that I was feeling. Like everyone, I always give the example of children playing at recess and me needing like a baby Xanax.
Oh yeah, okay, I got you now. Yeah.
So you knew, like when you were a kid, you knew that
I know.
you had
She's an
superpowers,
outlier.
right?
She's an outlier. I mean, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was always talking to something. I didn't know who I was talking to. I just felt a presence and I'm like, I'm talking to someone here. Yeah. So I just want to make sure I'm answering the question.
No,
Hopefully.
No,
you
no.
did. You tapping into your true self. And Bill and I have talked about this so much with so many people.
Right.
They're scared to tap into that intuition because for some reason, oh, if you do that, you're not going to be like the rest of us, and oh, you don't want to go there. So we spend our lives, and thank God for you 23, you started turning around. So most people grow up not tapping in their intuition because they think something's wrong with them, and there's nothing wrong with any of us, is there?
No, there's really not. There's really not. There's so many people that think their ideas are weird. Like, I'm like, if you like making tutus and thumbtacks, I always say that too. I'm like, go do it. Everybody needs a tutu and a thumbtack.
Well, you don't want to be wearing a tutu when you step on a thumbtack.
Exactly. Yeah, that wouldn't be great.
That could be a lot of fun, but
exactly.
You guys, man, you're outing me here. I'm going to go put away my tutu.
No, I got some thumbtacks. No, Avi, you're awesome. So, and I love that you're making me think about a lot of stuff now. So here it is, outlier. Are there really any outliers? Or they just think they're outliers?
Oh, that's a good question. I do think there are chosen people. There are definitely, special people. I don't mean it in like a competitive sense, like, oh, people are better. People are who they are. And I just think, we as a people, we have different gifts and we have different, a different purpose in this life. And I think we should just respect each other's gifts, but recognize that some people have a bigger purpose than others. So I do believe that there are outliers, definitely. And what I would say in terms of intuition, again, is if you're not familiar with intuition or spirit or anything like that, start to write down what you love, and that will always lead you to your purpose.
Oh, that's
Nice.
so awesome.
Yeah.
I'm just spinning on the intuition idea. So you were fortunate at an early age to recognize that there was something other directed about you, and that you had this built-in intuition. Can other people who show up and say, just to play the adversary here for a second, say, Avi, I have no intuition at all. I cannot, for the life of me, come up with an intuitive idea. How do you get to, how does somebody who's in that place get to it? Journaling, whatever. It's like, okay, I'm going to write all this stuff down here because Avi told me to do it. So you know what I'm saying? It's like, how do you create the spark that gets you beyond the rote performance into the place where you might just get an inkling?
I would definitely say to give yourself time, number one. Maybe you're not intuitive right off the bat. Maybe you weren't supposed to go someplace and you did anyway. Just recognize that as a lesson because it'll get better. But I would say being open to receiving messages is definitely number two. Being open to receiving messages from your spirit, from your heart space, from your wherever, from your minds. I always say there's three minds: your brain, your heart, and your gut. So knowing how you feel, check in with yourself, say, I am not sure where this is coming from, but I know it doesn't feel right. Listen to that.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great advice. And along with that comes a certain amount of humility because, I read somewhere where if you take a class of first graders and you watch them, and you were a teacher, so you would know this, and
Right.
they're picking their groups, but there's so much energy and there's this zest and this love of life. And then by the time they're seniors in high school, it's nothing of the sort. And then you have real cliques and people don't talk to people, and people feel less than and people feel more than. And it's almost like that exuberance and that zest and that authenticity and that intuition just somewhere disappears as we start living through this life. Would you say that's a fair assumption?
Yes, definitely. I feel like when hopefully I'm understanding this correctly. I feel like when students are placed in school, they're placed in certain groups, and I think school and the popularity, and this one's a nerd and this one's a goth and this whatever, it's an illusion. It's an illusion. So you start to hit people in their self-esteem. Their self-esteem starts to go, and I do think people. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, you nailed it.
Yeah.
You're tracking on it. So yes.
Yeah.
And what a terrible moment, because not only is your self-esteem being challenged, but your desire to fit into something is so incredibly powerful, like in middle school. And I remember never fitting into any group and being able to be a part of them, which is a different experience. But I mean, how do you navigate that? And I see that, like in your own story, Avi, that happened to you when you got booted out of the school and into something new. All of a sudden, it was like, oh, how do I fit into this now? So how did you like reclaim your place, if you will, in the world at that moment?
Oh, that's a good question. It's if honestly, it felt like I came back home.
Yeah.
I re-entered a place, and this took time. I'm not gonna lie, it took time to really feel at home, but that was the beginning. Um, I remember how free I felt as a child, and I just went after things. I didn't think about who liked me, who didn't, who whatever. And once I re-entered that journey, the beginning was me allowing myself to get back to that place of following my spirit and what I innately enjoyed.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's really powerful, And one thing that you said, which is really cool and real, is it takes time. And one thing that we do as human beings, whenever we're on this road to self-actualization or trying to improve our condition, we make mistakes. We will continue to make mistakes. And how, when you make a mistake, can you offer some advice on how people can get back on track, that they can still keep going?
What I say are mistakes are probably the best thing that can happen to you, especially if they happen quick. Because, and I also don't think there are mistakes really. I just think it's a part of your journey. So I would say don't beat yourself up, don't feel guilty for it. Obviously don't be a narcissist because we're against that, but I mean if
Yeah,
you if
definitely.
you if you
then we can have a whole show, well, more shows on that. So
oh
yeah,
definitely, oh god, I don't like narcissists at all.
yeah.
But if you've done something wrong to somebody, I would say that's a part of both of your journey. There's a lesson in everything. So maybe I need to take that back about the mistakes. So
Oh, no, no, no.
No, no,
It's a
no.
great one. Because I want to ask you, tell us about a recent, if it isn't being too self-revelatory, tell us about a recent mistake and how it worked in you.
a recent mistake.
Or, pick anyone. We've all made a bunch. I mean,
Gosh, how deep are we going to dig here, man? I mean, I'm not king of mistakes, so
What was
yeah.
a recent mistake that I made? I have made mistakes, so don't think I'm on here trying to be perfect or anything. I have
Stop,
made
Avi.
mistakes.
No,
Come on.
no, you're among friends. This is good. It's about who we are,
Yeah,
and we come with a lot of flaws. Like I have
absolutely. Oh,
plenty.
I have a lot of them. I would say, oh, definitely. Hmm. I would
I
say
can tell you a
being.
mistake.
I would say talking before thinking. Definitely being overly in my feels about certain things and kind of
Yeah,
lashing out instead of taking a moment to breathe.
Okay, this is cool. We've all
that's
done this.
great advice.
Yeah.
So after that happens, and
Right.
you hinted at this a minute ago, but after that happens, um, what is the next thing that Avishai does?
Avishai reflects. I
Ah,
I definitely reflect and figure out where is this coming from? Why did you do it? How did you feel when you did it? And I just make sure that if it does happen again, should it happen again, how to avoid that at all costs.
What's just dawned on me, and I love the fact that how candid and honest you are, is exactly the honest part, is that ladies and gentlemen, listeners, anybody, us included, you have to be so honest with yourself when you do make a mistake, not to continue to beat yourself up, but that honesty, that core, that integrity, that's the
Absolutely.
key of it. That
Absolutely.
there's your whole driver. How honest do we want to be? How authentic, how true? And gosh, it's just huge. And I think that there's a lot of this, really, it's been going on for a while, but holistic, like we said at the outset, it's not a new word, it's a lifestyle. And the fact that you learned some very interesting things at such a young age puts you definitely in an outlier category. But now you're allowed to do these amazing things and help others. That's got to feel good.
It does feel good. Yes.
So tell us about that.
It allows me to take my pain and turn it into a purpose and help other people with their journey. It's like now when I hear people sharing that they don't feel good, that they don't love themselves, that they're going through a rough time, I can really relate to them and give them what I needed at that time. It was because I didn't have someone who could help me the way I needed to be helped. Like I said, I did have supportive people that truly helped me, but the other part of it was something that I had to do. And I think I had to do that so I can really understand on a subconscious level how to help other people.
I love this because it puts the responsibility right where it belongs. I mean, we can show up and we can offer what our gifts are, but unless the person we're offering them to is ready to go there, it's not going to happen. And, as a performing musician, I'm happy when there's a few people in the audience, but most of the time, I know I'm not going to reach people most of the time. And that's just sort of the ethos if you're playing music. And it's fine. It's totally cool because there's always one person that gets it. And I never know in advance who that's going to be, even if it's just me on the phone with somebody else. I mean, I could totally miss the mark. I'm not asking you for a scorecard or anything like that, but what I'm curious about is how you, Avi, recognize when you've got a fellow traveler in the room. What is that? How does that show up for you? Does that make sense?
It makes in terms of like clients or in terms of just people in general.
Oh, both, all of the above. Sure.
That's a toughie. Because there's not a lot of fellow travelers,
Yeah, that's why we're all outliers here.
But you're right. You're honest. They're not. They're few and far between. And that, with having technologies, we're able to do this. And, you got 3 human beings right here on this particular episode at this particular time on this particular planet. And think about the benefits. What you just have inspired me to think about, Avi, and thank you very much for this, is you've inspired me to be a commissioner, that I've been commissioned somehow with these ribbons of trauma. And I love that. You tweaked something inside of my heart, and it's like, wow, I'm maybe we're commissioned to do this.
That really has me choked up. I am so happy that you were able to make that connection.
Yeah.
Okay, so it just happened, you guys. It just happened. So, bingo, fellow travelers. So let's break it down and see how did that happen, you guys? This is so cool. Because you both knew it in a moment. You both knew it, right?
Right.
Well, I've known her for centuries. We were born on different planets, thousands of years ago, and it was meant to be. So, just like you, Bill, this is really cool because I guess I'm learning too. And I've been commissioned to do this. So Avi just reinforced that. And it's spectacular. I mean, you're a real live human being that is making a huge difference in my life. So thank you. And imagine what we can do as a team,
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So awesome. So where do you see yourself in the next year or the next 5 years?
I just see myself as being even more free, impacting more people, and just continuing to surrender to the universe, putting out my manifestations and, reaping whatever is for me. I think that everyone has a destiny and they just have to be open to it. So I just see myself as being open. Yeah.
So this is a great segue into our sort of final series of exploration here, which is how does Avi show up in the world, and how do you deploy your gifts? We've talked about journaling and some other things, but tell us how you then express and help those in the world who are looking for what you give?
Well, I I do have spiritual gifts. I didn't think I was going to say it on this show, but I am, because I feel guided to, and they're making me, which sometimes I don't like. When I say they, I mean my spirit team. I'm literally being pushed to the microphone.
Awesome.
So
Thank you.
Yes.
I do speak with angels. I do speak with people who are on the other side when they give me messages. And whenever I receive messages for certain people, and they're smiling right now, whenever I receive certain messages for people, I do share it with them. So I'm also health coaching. That's really where I focus my time. And I make sure that I'm guided at all times, and make sure I'm balanced at all times so I can be of service to others. But I definitely have to put myself first.
Yes, explain that a little bit, because I know some of the ways that you do that, and if you want to share them, that'd be amazing. But how do you care for Avi?
So I really, coming from a corporate background, I said, you know what? I don't believe that self-care should be on a Friday, because I would hear teachers say, yeah, so every Friday I treat myself. I'm like, why can't you treat yourself every day? Whether that's going to get your nails done, doing, taking a crystal bath, or, getting your, like I said, nails and hair done, maybe purchasing your favorite crystal. Like, just do something for yourself every day. Eating your favorite meal, like, just do something every single day. You should take care of yourself every single day and build your life around self-care.
Nice. Absolutely. That's some of the best advice I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Do you have those are personal mantras, but do you have one that sticks out that Avi lives by, like, every single day?
Oh, absolutely. I am that I am.
Oh my gosh. Okay, now I'm the one getting choked up.
No, it's awesome. So, I love what you said about crystals, because I love crystals, and I actually give them away whenever I get a chance. I'll go down to the gem store and I'll buy one and I'll give it away. And the lady down there thinks it's one of the coolest things, but crystals are just my connection to the universe. So thanks for pointing out crystals. I think that's pretty cool.
You're welcome. Yeah, they're amazing.
They really are. So what can we do, or where can people go to find out more about you, Avi? What do they need to do? How can they contact you?
They could contact me on www.avishail.com. My other website, which is eatstressaway.com, but that has to be transferred. But for now, it's AVISHAIEL.com. And they can also find me on the Avi Unfiltered podcast, which will be premiering very soon, either this month or next month. So it's Avi Unfiltered, AVI Unfiltered, and it's on all major platforms.
We'll get all of that into the show notes, as well as the books that you mentioned. And
Yes.
There's some great stuff. I want to put up your journaling link to Amazon so people can find you there.
Definitely.
There's so many ways to touch base, and thank heavens for technology. We can do this so easily.
Yeah.
I know we're sort of crawling up on the end of our time together.
Yeah.
So final words of wisdom before we start our closing sequence.
You are enough. Be comfortable being yourself. Take up space. And remember, you have a right to peace at all times.
Oh my gosh. I say that again. This is so powerful, everybody.
Yeah.
Oh, please. If you give us one more time.
You are enough. Feel comfortable being who you are. It is okay to take up space, and you have a right to peace at all times.
I love having a right
awesome.
to peace. I've never thought of peace as a human right before.
It is. Yeah.
It is. Many blessings. Avi, John and I so appreciate you being here. John, any final words?
I'm blessed to know that, Connecticut is taken care of with Avi up that way. And I'm just blessed to know that there's people like her out there in the world. It gives me great hope. And when they take their time out of their busy lives to share something that I can get something out of, and something that millions of people can learn from, I just feel really human. And God bless you. And thanks for being here with Bill and me.
Same to you. This was so much fun. Thanks for having me. You guys are amazing.
Oh, thank you for being a part of it, Avi. We are just, as John said, so blessed to have you on board. And, one more time from AHO Radio, thank you to everyone who's out there listening. who's working to be authentic, who is trying to find your feet. We love you all. Thank you for joining us on this episode of AHO Radio. Information we mentioned is probably in the show notes, but if we missed anything, please let us know and we'll get it added for you. Subscribe to the AHO Radio channel on YouTube to stay connected, and as always, we wish you health, success, and significance. AHO!